They said there were three types of people who ruled the world: the talented, the wealthy, and the insanely lucky. And with that idea, the story began. The chapter opened with a live stream of a raid led by the famous Abyss Guild, well known among players of God Wars, a virtual reality MMORPG. The broadcast showed the guild taking on a twin-headed dragon, leaving viewers awestruck, some impressed by the players' skill, others by their gear. One viewer even commented that their equipment was so valuable, selling just one item could buy a house in Seoul. Before long, the first dragon head was defeated, and a popular guild member named Merlin finished off the rest, stunning everyone with how quickly the dungeon had been cleared. Among the raiders was the protagonist, Hyun-woo Hyung. After the raid, he was shown on the phone, clearly frustrated. He questioned the broker about his payment, exclaiming in disbelief, 300,000 won for a daily wage? A low reward considering the raid's 30% survival rate. The broker responded coldly, telling him that if he didn't like it, he was free not to participate. Hyun-woo insisted he wasn't refusing the job, only asking for a raise, but the broker curtly ended the call, claiming that the guild had set the price. Overcome with frustration, Hyun-woo shouted in anger. A staff member from the VR cafe, Hyuk-ju, popped his head in to check if he was okay. Embarrassed, Hyun-woo apologized for being loud and vented about his situation, constantly being used as a disposable tank by larger guilds like Abyss Guild for little compensation. Hyuk-ju sympathized, but admitted that he'd be thrilled just to take part in such a high-level raid. As the two walked through a room filled with VR pods and other gamers, Hyuk-ju remarked that out of the 1.8 billion players of God Wars, only about 15 million could actually earn a living from it. He encouraged Hyun-woo not to be so discouraged, adding that he wasn't without talent. That word, talent, triggered a moment of reflection in Hyun-woo. He knew he did possess a kind of edge. Unlike other games, God Wars didn't have auto-targeting, which gave him a unique advantage. Before his forced retirement due to injury, he had been a professional baseball pitcher, and his sharp aim carried over into the game. Later, at the counter, Hyun-woo paid for his time and thanked Hyuk-ju, wishing him luck in leveling up and succeeding. Hyuk-ju laughed, doubting it was even possible anymore, given how long the frontrunners had been dominating the game. Hyun-woo reluctantly agreed. Hyuk-ju reminded him that his character, Midas, had been built over 5 years. Hyun-woo recalled the immense struggle and said he'd never go through that again. Yet deep down, he knew this path was the only one he had. He had a family to protect. After their conversation, Hyun-woo left the cafe. It was already dark, and rain poured heavily as he made his way home. On his walk, he thought about a novel he'd been reading, one involving a character betrayed and sent back in time for revenge. He scoffed, thinking that if it had been him, he'd have invested in lottery tickets or stocks instead. At that moment, a truck tire suddenly appeared, speeding toward him through the rain. The headlights illuminated Hyun-woo's stunned face as the driver screamed in panic. A loud crash echoed, but miraculously, the truck narrowly missed him. As bystanders rushed to the scene to check on both Hyun-woo and the driver, a telephone pole nearby snapped. Live wires whipped through the air and struck near Hyun-woo. He was knocked unconscious from the electrical shock. Hyun-woo groaned as he slowly regained consciousness, confused about where he was. A doctor nearby asked if he was fully awake. The moment Hyun-woo realized his surroundings, he screamed in terror. The doctor, unfazed, calmly informed him that he had no major injuries, just a few scratches, and that he could discharge himself after paying the medical fees at the front desk. Shocked and panicked, Hyun-woo repeated the words, "medical fee," as if trying to make sense of them. After leaving the hospital, he began walking home, mentally recounting the series of unfortunate events that led him there. He had barely avoided being hit by a speeding truck, only to end up electrocuted by a falling power line. Already in a tight financial situation, this new burden made things even worse for him. When he finally reached his apartment, Hyunwoo took some comfort in the thought that his niece, Hye-rin, and his brother, Tae-woo, were at least doing okay. But as he attempted to unlock the door using the biometric system, he was met with an unexpected message. This is not a registered biocode. Confused, he tried again, but the result was the same. Frustrated, he muttered that it had been working just fine yesterday. The door opened as Hye-rin greeted him warmly, and Hyunwoo quickly brushed off the issue, blaming it on the low-income housing's faulty tech. Her cheerful welcome made him momentarily forget the strange malfunction. He asked her where her father was, only for Tae-woo to appear and casually reply, "I'm right here." Tae-woo asked if something had happened at the hospital. Not wanting to worry his family, Hyunwoo downplayed the incident, saying he had simply tripped on the sidewalk. To change the subject, he brought up the biometric lock issue, explaining that the system had claimed he wasn't registered. Tae-woo found that hard to believe. Hyunwoo insisted it was true and suggested that he could have just broken in. Tae-woo clarified that while a complete failure was possible, the system couldn't selectively reject a registered user, not when it used the same biometric recognition technology as the God Wars capsules. At the mention of God Wars, Hyunwoo froze. The realization hit him hard. He repeated Tae-woo's words and began sweating, suddenly bolting out the door, shouting that he was heading to a capsule cafe. At the cafe, he frantically tried to log into his God Wars account. After failing multiple times, he called a technician, insisting that all the credentials were correct. However, the technician suggested it might be a hacking attempt. Frustrated, Hyunwoo insisted that he was the rightful owner of the account. Pacing with anxiety, he tried to understand what had gone wrong. He knew God Wars used a player's unique biometric data. The only possible change, he figured, was the electrocution from the day before. Just as he was connecting the dots, a message from a broker popped up, alerting him about an upcoming raid. Agitated, Hyunwoo groaned that he couldn't even log in, lamenting that everything he had invested, the character he raised with every bit of money he had, might be lost. He thought back to what had happened after his brother's accident. Despite the setbacks, Hyunwoo realized he couldn't give up, not with his family depending on him. Quitting God Wars wasn't an option. He started formulating a new plan. If he couldn't fight, he'd become a miner in the game. Determined, he marched toward the capsule set up by Hyuk-ju, who silently watched the protagonist take his seat. As Hyunwoo entered the capsule, the game's welcome screen lit up. "Do you wish to participate in the Battle of the Gods?" Without hesitation, he answered, "Yes." He began creating his new character. When prompted for a name, he chose Midas. The game, calling itself a world beyond reality, felt very similar to real life for Hyunwoo, especially because nothing in it came without money. Then, a new prompt appeared. "Would you like to use your character ticket?" A ticket can only be used once. Hyunwoo groaned, remembering the steep cost, 880,000 won, required to create a single character. Still, he paid it and moved on. In God Wars, countless players spent absurd amounts just to gain minor advantages. The first-class selection, however, was purely based on luck. Many, including Hyunwoo, poured money into re-rolls just to get a decent class. Ultimately, success in the game boiled down to two things: either being outrageously lucky or having an endless supply of money. Staring at the selection cards, Hyunwoo, having done this many times before, almost believed he could see their contents. With his luck at an all-time low and plans to just become a miner, he didn't think much of it until something caught his eye: a shimmering gold card. It read, Archmage. In disbelief, he questioned whether he was seeing things. As he selected the card, a message appeared. The War Dragon accepts you as its 82nd apostle. Stunned, he read the next message. You have become the Archmage class. When the game loaded and his stats appeared, a message in the window read, You can learn all the magic in the world for worshipping the War Dragon, master of all magic. Hyunwoo remembered that the Archmage class was the class the third-ranked player in the entire game had spent millions to obtain. Still in shock, he glanced around and noticed other players stuck with basic warrior and lower-tier classes. He overheard them discussing how only wealthy players could afford the countless rerolls necessary to land the Archmage. But Hyunwoo, now blessed with sudden good fortune, smiled to himself. If this was real, then he had no intention of going into the mines. It was time to level up and grind. If you're curious about what happens next, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more recaps of your favorite manhwa and manga.